Fellas, I hate to admit this, but the Sonic fans, the Sonic fans might have possibly been right.
Sonic fans tend to bounce between complete depression and intense cope. Like, dude, have you seen how they reacted to these 5 out of 10 movies? And then you get the actual good one, and it's like the heat death of the universe is happening, and they are bringing it forth. I should know, because I am a Sonic fan. I don't know what's kept this series so close to my heart since I was so young, but there's always this weird love in everything this blue fuck shows up in, good or bad for me. And this all really came to a head this year with Sonic Racing Crossworlds. People went from depressingly screaming that the game had no chance against a new Mario Kart, to coping so hard that it was going to be not only as good as Mario Kart, but better than it. And that's for a few reasons. For one, Mario Kart World wasn't exactly what we all hoped for. It's a good game, even great at times, but it's a game that constantly limits itself and refuses to let people play how they want. Another thing is that Sega was actually backing up the fans here. I love this new confidence they've put into Sonic, ever since around Frontiers. Yeah, I don't really like Frontiers, but the marketing team went from purely mocking the series, and even the developers rarely feeling like they had any confidence or drive for the series, to constantly pushing super hard to show that, yeah, Sonic isn't just cringy. People love these characters. They're interesting and cool. The Year of Shadow was the perfect encapsulation of that, with a huge amount of passion and confidence in the movie, on Shadow Generations, and just the extra stuff like Dark Beginnings. And that hasn't ended with Crossworld. So many references and cool trailers, the insane character reveals, the massive roster of free crossover DLC characters, and paid left field DLC. Then it all converges with Sega once again attacking Mario and Nintendo for the first time in decades. It's amazing. It's the first time this series has felt like it had a stable direction and passion at the helm since Sonic Generations. This game also had massive shoes to fill in its own series. Team Sonic Racing wasn't awful, but it was pretty representative of the time that it came out. Not bad, but not really trying to be that good. Weird character choices, bland tracks. It felt like it didn't want to be a Sonic game, like it was embarrassed to be one. But this game was advertising itself not just as a massive Sonic celebration, but as a sequel to All-Star Racing Transformed, one of the very few kart racers I would put up there with Mario Kart. That's what really had me curious. Could they match just how solid of a drift racer that game was? That dynamic track design, that frantic and intense pace. Well, I think it's clear by now, yeah, not only that, but in a lot of ways, this game also clears that new Mario Kart. Now, I've made it clear how Mario Kart World frustrates me a lot, and since then, the game got worse. Yippee! But would I say it's overall worse than Sonic Racing Crossworlds? Yes and no. I think in certain places it's still untouchable, but those problems I've mentioned before are really coming back to bite it in comparison, because this game shares very few of its flaws, and we're going to get into that today. My goal with this video is twofold. Actually look at why this game may be my preferred game of the two, and actually dig into why this game is not only the best Sonic Racing game, but something insanely fun and special. I can't put this game down. In fact, the only reason why this video wasn't out like 2 days after the game released is because I don't want to make videos. I just want to play more of this game. So let's get this over with. Let's analyze Sonic Racing Crossworlds. Obviously, if I'm going to frequently compare this game to Mario Kart World, I've got to bring up how much more fair and better the price is, right? After all, World is the most overpriced game of all time, but this one is basically discounted. Yeah, no. Sure, it's cheaper, but not really. I've never personally been a big fan of games being $70 nowadays, so Crossworlds just being what the industry would consider the standard high price instead of Nintendo's brain-dead $80 doesn't create much goodwill for me. Also, let's not kid ourselves. The game is $70, but it also has a $30 season pass, one with substantial content, along with the massive amount of free content we're also getting. But to get all that this game has to offer, that's either $100 in 2 purchases or $90 in 1. That's not generous, and honestly, despite this game's quality, I wouldn't even say $70 is a fair price. It's good, but the only content is racing. No extra story or missions like in the few previous racing games, and while yeah, not all of those were good, this game has no real replacement. Just racing. If I'm being honest, I think if they actually wanted to make Nintendo look like the greedy pigs that they are, the best move would have been to sell this game at a discounted price. The season pass I guess could stay how it is, but imagine how amateur Nintendo would look if their $80 game that required a new system was getting dominated in both reception and price by a different kart racer that can be played on the previous generation. Obviously, that's not the world we live in, but I do think it would have legitimately made me just flat out say, this game is better, fuck Mario Kart World. But as it is, I don't see its price as a point over the competition. In fact, I find it almost as unacceptable, if not just as. Also, I don't want to compare them too much because it's not fair for any kart racer to be compared to it, but Dr. Robotnik's Ring Racers is a free game and has more characters and content. Again, not a fair comparison, as I would rather compare the two consumer products against each other rather than comparing them to the free, incredible labor of love that's kind of untouchable and is one of the best of the genre. But nobody even cares about the price. We're all sheep and we love to give these companies our money. At least that's what YouTube comments have taught me. So how's the gameplay? Yeah, it's good, no shit. To be fair, I think that as long as it used the shell they've been using since All-Star Racing, the game would at least feel good to play, and it does. The Sonic kart racing games are actually not quite as comparable to Mario Kart in pure game feel as you would think, especially with games like 8 and World in the picture. While yes, you choose a character, and now in Crossworlds you choose and even build a kart, spam items, the works, the actual game feel and design are much different. Mario Kart is a lot more chaotic, a lot more bumping into each other, and a lot more of your skill expression depending on the tracks themselves. Also, if you ask me, it feels a little more bouncy, I guess. Karts tend to bounce around a little bit more, and the weight of it feels like every car has a bit of give to it, which adds to the cartoony nature in gameplay. Sonic kart racers, however, are more of an arcade-style drift racer. Obviously, you drift a lot in Mario Kart, but here you drift almost the entire time. You're constantly swerving, boosting, trying to optimize every second so that you're either currently boosting or trying to charge up a boost. Straight paths tend to be either super tight or super wide, leading to different priorities for each one, and it means racing feels a little less random and a little more intense. This can lead to more linear level design, but most of the time, meaning most games besides Team Sonic Racing, the developers knew how to create unique track designs that still complemented the gameplay style. And I honestly think that was the biggest focus when it came to this game. Team Sonic Racing had very bland tracks, so this one had a lot to prove, and I think that's why this game's main gimmick was added, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Baseline, these courses are great. I think the game does kind of fail to put its best foot forward, as its first couple of tracks are so basic that they can kind of give the wrong impression, but I'm not kidding. Every track from Water Palace onward has something incredible about it. First off, each one is gorgeous. Everything is detailed and cartoony, and nothing gets lost in the chaos of the race. Second off, oh my god, the fan service is insane. Obviously, the All-Star games and even Team Racing had some fun references, but this game just goes above and beyond. Obviously, visually, almost every track from this game is pulled from a game in the series. Unleashed, Forces, Frontiers, Colors, Secret Rings, and even the original Riders. Pumpkin Hill is in this game, and yeah, it's one of 3 different SA2 tracks, but they still included Pumpkin Hill. It all warms the long dead part of my heart that could feel joy. But that's all just on the surface, because somehow they managed to make every track feel like the games they were pulled from. Apodos has tighter corridors with alternate sides to take through them, because that's how the original level was. Mystic Jungle has those water slides that you can jump between. Kronos Island has multiple wide open areas followed by you driving after Squid. North Star Islands from Sonic Superstars borrows multiple level themes, but every time you go into a new theme, the gimmicks change. From the walls you can drive on, into the air fans, into the factory bouncing you up. It's like every track's design was made not only with a passion for referencing the series, but was also picked for how it could affect a kart racer. Plus, as I said, this game is a sequel to All-Stars Racing Transformed, and the thing about that game is that the vehicle transformations were only a part of what made that game great, because the transformations are what led to the dynamic track designs. Transformed tracks rarely ever stayed the same between laps. They would fall apart, new paths would open. You'd be driving on a track for one lap, then the next lap be flying past fighter jets or boating through lava. When I saw the return of flight and boats, I was excited, but my main hope was that the dynamic track design would return with it. And it does! Different paths open up, new secret item boxes, moments where you fly over the track instead of on it. I wouldn't say they change as much, but they still change enough for it to be noticeable and for it to make each track more fun. Again, unlike Mario Kart, the gameplay of Sonic Racing is more focused on tight drifting and requires more strict layouts. And this is how you stop that from creating uninteresting tracks. Every track has something cool about it or an alternate path to use, whether they're based on something or not, and all in different ways. Tracks like Aqua Forest test your mastery over boating controls and jumping, letting you skip massive sections with enough skill. Colorful Mall has like 4 different layers to it, all of which have different obstacles. Coral Town has so many paths, I still haven't been on all of them. There's so much packed into each one of the tracks that I could spend hours on just one of them and not get bored. Of course, I probably wouldn't wouldn't get bored either way because you don't even spend all 3 laps in the tracks to begin with, and that's where this game's new gimmick really changes things. This game has 24 courses, a decent selection, I would say a little less than the best of the genre, but that doesn't consider the 15 different Crossworlds there are. During the second lap of each race, 2 paths will open, to which the person in first place selects either the choice given or a random track, and you're instantly taken to a completely different area for 1 lap. Now, depending on your settings, or if you're playing online, that 1 lap could be in one of the main 24 courses, at least if you hit random, but the set in stone option, or the guaranteed one if you're online, is a 1 lap Crossworld track, and these are incredible. These are stuff with even more references: Starlight, Carnival, and Sweet Mountain from Colors, Dragon Road and Holoska from Unleashed, Cyberspace from Frontiers, Dinosaur Jungle from fucking Secret Rings. They even have Digital Circuit from Shadow the Hedgehog. And just like the main tracks, these aren't just references. They incorporate the level designs into the track, and it creates some of the most fun moments in the game. Each one of these are limited to 1 lap, and I am 2 ways about this. For one, I'm a little sad about that. I mean, all of these are so good that I kind of want a full race on them, but that's also the point. These only have 1 lap, so it gave them the opportunity to make that lap as incredible and intense as possible. Steampunk City has more pathways than I can count. Holoska's set pieces are some of the most gorgeous in the game. White Cave from Riders have some of the most chaotic pathways, and I don't think all of these would be as good as full races. Being 1 lap means putting every idea, set piece, and gimmick into 1 short burst. It means instead of waiting for the next part, the entire thing is the best part, and it makes me honestly fine with them only being 1 lap. And it only adds to that dynamic track design. Having 1 lap take you to a completely exclusive location with sections that are potentially more complex than the course you were already on, then shooting you back onto the original track, which is also changed, is always great, is always an amazing experience. It's a gimmick I originally didn't think would be a huge deal, but no matter how many times I suddenly have to drive through a sinking pirate ship or am suddenly knocked on my ass by Starlight Carnival's visuals and music, it never gets old. And I know what some of you might be thinking. Cole, you bitch that Mario Kart World didn't have all 3 laps of its races in its tracks, and instead had dynamic open world tracks. How is this different? Well, first of all, you get 2 laps in the normal tracks, not just 1. Second, the Crossworlds are still actual racetracks. They aren't moments to go brain dead while waiting for the right moment to spam items. They're the same overall gameplay, just in the middle of a different track. The intermission courses in Mario Kart World are fun the first couple of times, but then they get dull. I want the immaculately designed high skill expression track, not the straight line to get to said track. Sonic Racing Crossworlds doesn't have that issue. If Mario Kart's intermissions were on the same level of quality as its normal tracks, I would never have bitched about it. Crossworlds are just as good, if not better, than some of these tracks, and they never feel like you're missing out on something better. Do I think that this game's normal tracks and the Crossworlds are overall better than Mario Kart World's main tracks? A lot of them do compete, but I don't think the best in this game are as good as the best in World. I love just about all of this game's tracks, but I still think that ones like DK Spaceport, Shy Guy Bazaar, and Question Block Ruins are overall better. However, I actually get to play an entire race on the actual tracks of this game, which means honestly, in my head, I tend to prefer Crossworlds tracks a lot of the time.
That's not even mentioning how much customization you have for each race.
For the first time in any Sonic Kart racer, every character gets to use every kart, and similar to Mario Kart 7 and 8, pieces and tires can be mixed and matched to meet whatever playstyle you prefer. And the different car types actually do play differently. I was using primarily handling cars when I first learned the game's controls, then eventually switched off and started using speed and power cars. But then upon returning to handling, it is night and day. All of the types are night and day, and it makes everyone's playstyle feel different. The game wants you to tailor things to your preference. And then there's hoverboards. When they revealed the return of Extreme Gear, I thought it was neat, but figured they'd just be a visual difference and not much else. I was absolutely wrong. Hoverboards are a lot more precise. Drifting barely forces a turn, so you can be a lot more liberal with how you use them. Their small size can make a difference in those moments where you're trying to escape the crowd. And overall, I think they could be considered the best vehicle in the game, until you get hit. These things are fragile. They slow to a crawl if you get bumped too much or hit with any items. It's a higher risk for a potential high reward, and it requires a different mindset when queuing up with one. If I had to compare it to something, it'd probably be Inside Drift in Mario Kart. Does it feel at all the same as that? No, but it's similar in the way that it's a completely different ball game compared to every other vehicle type, and I can see why people who main Extreme Gear stick to it so hard. Also, can I just say it's so nice that this game actually shows you how your character is affecting your stats. Mario Kart also has character stats, but you never get to see how they're modifying your setup. This game does show you that, and while I know having character stats can be controversial, this helps you with your build. And we're not done talking about build because there's also plates. Plates are customizable sets of modifiers and buffs you can equip, and while you have to unlock some of them, almost all of the most relevant equips are unlocked from the start. Round out stats you feel like you're lacking. Start with a monster truck item. They even have these fantastic presets you can equip that focus on specific stats. Also, you can do a funny spin while drifting. That's the best one of all. This was absolutely the biggest surprise of the game for me, because when I saw it, I immediately got worried. There's so much to consider, and I've never been a big fan of buffs like this that everyone just gets to toss on before a race, but these are honest to God balanced. Not unnoticeable, but they legitimately encourage creativity and playing how you want. And I swear I'm not making fun of Mario Kart World when I say that. That's coming later. Just because that game limits how it lets you play doesn't mean Crossworld's insane focus on player decision making doesn't mean I'm mocking Mario Kart and its fuck-ass online. And yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a meta loadout, one that's just better, but at least for now, and hopefully for the future, it's clear all of this is just to give a player their ideal playstyle. I drift a lot, so my loadout is based on the spinning drift and keeping a high amount of top speed and control. But everyone else might want something different, and they all get it. We get our cake, and instead of them being dicks and taking it away, we get to eat it. As much of it as we want, and that's something special. Not to mention the cosmetic changes to the colors. This game has so much customization for cars outside of stats, it's insane. But all of that is just for gameplay stuff. We haven't even mentioned the actual roster. Because tracks, mechanics, customization, and fun, those are only like 80% of what I'm looking for in a kart racer. Let's be real. That grand majority, 20%, is of course going to be the roster. And honestly, I'm not crazy picky when it comes to character rosters. Hell, I liked how weird Mario Kart Worlds was for the most part. But Sonic is also similar. Just give me like Sonic and we're good. However, even with that, Team Sonic Racing's roster was a bit messy. Again, that game isn't awful, but it really didn't try, and that was shown in its character roster. Vector, no other chaotics. Team Rose, no cream. And look at how tiny the roster is overall. You make a game focusing around the Sonic cast teaming up for races, and yet the roster is so tiny that the concept kind of dies. Now, you did have some car customization, but that was about as interesting as it would get. Here, though, the roster isn't insane, but this is a lot more like it. Every primary team is here and accounted for. Silver and Blaze are here. Sage is playable, which is fantastic to see. We get Egg Robo, which did have potential to be frustrating, but the rest of the roster is complete enough that what's basically a joke character is more than welcome. Hell, I even don't mind the addition of Zaz. Look, I'm mixed on Lost World, and I straight up don't like its story, but some of the Deadly Six character designs are pretty good, so if they have to come back, I'm glad it's the two best of those designs. Honestly though, as weird of an inclusion as they were, I kind of wish the Chow came back. Look, I love Chow, and they were funnily enough my main in that game, but considering every car is now shared amongst the cast, I suppose making it work with the fuck-ass bubbles probably wasn't in the cards. But overall, the roster isn't anything crazy, but it's good stuff. And hell, the reason it's so focused on getting all of the main cast and iconic characters without digging too deep is actually more than likely because one of the coolest things the game does, which is make all of them interact. Every character in the roster has multiple interactions with every other character, and these are gold. So even if the base roster is just what is basically expected, plus a couple extras, these make every selection feel earned and fun to choose, because seriously, I love these character interactions. This game has no story, so they basically had to stuff every conversation and bit of dialogue into short exchanges, whether it's pre-race or during, and they are straight up a highlight of the game. They brought in Ian Flynn to write these, which at this point just confirms the idea that he's the head writer for Sonic Media now, and I have no complaints. Yeah, he really likes for characters to say, "Hey Lois, remember the time I was in Sonic Adventure?" But not only is he the first person in the writer's room to care about continuity in over a decade, he also generally has a pretty deep understanding of these characters and how they work. Yeah, some have changed due to this, but for the most part, I love his character work. And what's great is this isn't a very plot important game, it's just a spin-off. So callbacks and fan service aren't intrusive, they're welcome. Obviously we see that in the course design, but all the different callbacks and interactions constantly put a smile on my face. Everyone being happy to see Sage again and all referring to her as Eggman's daughter, Shadow acknowledging his changes while also just being a petty bitch, Cream being so nice that no trash talk works on her, Egg Pawn making people question why he's there, Silver being a massive nerd who is simultaneously cool but also incredibly socially awkward. Oh my god, Big. Big might have the best in the entire game. He either is incredibly polite to the point where people are planning to go fishing with him later, or he no-sells everything they say. Everyone he has is either funny or adorable. Omega literally calls him an S-rank threat, then agrees to go fishing with him. Speaking of Omega, so funny. I am so glad we're getting to see him in more recent games, because he is genuinely the biggest hater in the entire franchise, and every word he says, whether a threat or a very rare compliment, is gold. There are over 2 hours just for the pre-Grand Prix interactions, and these are only 2 sentences long each. Obviously, the main meat and potatoes of the game is the actual racing, but I don't think people realize how much this adds. One of the most important parts of Sonic to me are the characters. Obviously, the designs are aces, but their personalities are why people love them. So idiots like me get to see that representation. It makes us kick our feet and squeal with joy, and it's something we haven't seen in a Sonic racing game since Riders, and it does it 10 times better. Mostly. This is a short nitpick, but I do kind of miss the story modes of previous games, not even because they were good, but because they let racing exclusive characters stretch their legs a bit. The Babylon Rogues from Riders are back, and that's great to see. And honestly, for the most part, their characterization is on point, but to have them return for the first time in an eternity outside of comics and only let them interact with people in these short little bursts is a bit disappointing. Although I do love that we get to see them interact with so many more characters than they ever did before. I don't know, I wouldn't mind them showing up in a mainline game or two at this point. And outside of all that, we also have the massive amount of DLC characters coming, and they're bringing back the crossover element that Sonic Racing seemed to have dropped. For free, we're getting what looks to be around 13 Sega characters, starting with Joker from Persona 5, who many say I look like, Infinity Wealth from Yakuza Like a Dragon, and Hatsune Miku, whose inclusion means my wife will actually play this game with me. I love that all these guys are free, and they come with their own carts and unique stats. Now, it is pretty weak that it doesn't seem like any of them besides Miku will be voiced, but honestly, I don't really mind. The old All-Star Racing games had characters either be silent or reuse old voice lines anyways, but I think it would have just been enough to not give them interactions, but still generic voice lines. I honestly hope we get more of these characters revealed soon. We know we're getting Knights. I expect at least one Jet Set Radio character to represent that new game. I hope we get Ai from Monkey Ball. That series is still relevant after all. Maybe some more deep cuts like Rystar, fucking Vector Man, I don't know. I would like maybe 3 or 4 more Sonic characters though. Like everyone who's read the comic, I would love Surge, Whisper, and Tangle. But along with them, since none of these DLC characters get character interactions, just start hitting us with niche fan service. Tikal, Mephiles, Styx, I don't know, give us Infinite. I mean, come on, you got the Werehog in there, go nuts. Also, give me and me alone a classic Eggman skin. I will use nobody else and I will never stop playing the game. The paid DLC is expensive, but it's also pretty cool. These choices are completely fucked, and I am all in on them. SpongeBob, Minecraft, Avatar, whatever, it'll be great. Plus, they also all come with their own tracks, so the main game's courses will end up as an even 30, and the ones we've seen look great. And I'd be remiss to not mention that in the season pass, you get 9 and the other guys. Look, Sonic Prime may be mid, but 9 is anything but, so you know he's going to be one of my most played characters. Overall, the starting roster is great, but with all that's going to be added, it becomes completely insane. Compared to Mario Kart World, sure, it doesn't get those funny costumes, but it does have my boyfriend, Sonic the Hedgehog, in it, so it wins by default. And for a couple of smaller things, unlocking things in this game is actually good. You get new music for the jukebox by doing time trials, and this game has a jukebox, and you can customize every lap with different music. You can get new carts by doing versus mode, and everything else by spending tickets you earn just by playing the game. There's a progress tracker with rewards for more customization and more tickets that will get you more cart pieces, and it all just constantly loops into you always getting new things. There's nothing stupid or obtuse. The hardest thing is probably Supersonic, but even then that requires just beating every rival once, and you can't even use them online. Could you imagine if you had to do some dumb bullshit like use an item or a random UFO and just hope you can get or find the specific thing that you want? Don't know why I said that. That would be really dumb if a kart racer did that. And also, the online is great. Works totally fine in my experience. I love seeing other people's builds and going head to head. And also, every time my rank goes up, I get hard as fuck. Plus, most people playing this are dum-dums, so I spend most of my time in the top 4, which is what really matters. Also, it just has you vote on a race, then you go there. It also guarantees unique Crossworlds, so every race feels different. It is just the good stuff you want to experience online. I will say I do have one issue. After each race, you get booted to a new room. If you're in a group, they follow you, you, but it means that every race is with a new group of randoms, which I don't care for. I like the rooms in Mario Kart where people would drop in and out frequently, not just for competition or anything, but because that way the same course didn't get frequently picked. I'm also just referring to 8 here. This happens in World because of how the races take you around the map. But I've had sessions where I got North Star Islands 3 times within 4 races, and while I love that track, I like other tracks too. And here's where we talk about why I think I've been having more fun with this game than I have Mario Kart World. Look, Mario Kart World has the potential to be the better game, but it refuses to do so. And its missing quality of life features and its constant refusal to let players do what they want leaves it feeling unfocused. The more you play, the more you realize how much should be there but isn't, and the only change made to the game was one that made it worse. However, this game doesn't have that issue. It is laser focused on just making its primary experience as fun as possible. There's not as many tracks, but each one besides maybe the first 2 are filled with spots to master, and every Crossworld is so dense and fun that no matter which one you get, it's exciting. There's no fat. It is just the good part, constantly. It makes it so with each race, you immediately want to jump into the next one. No hoping you get a normal course, no time wasted, you just get what you want. Yeah, Mario Kart World is ambitious. One of the most ambitious kart racers ever made. But ambition doesn't automatically make your game good. This is the part where I make another joke making fun of Sonic Frontiers, but I'm running out of clever shit to say outside of giving it its own video, so here you go, it's the best I got. I think this is a perfect encapsulation of the issue. Mario Kart World's soundtrack is incredible. Probably better than Crossworlds, but there's no jukebox. You just gotta hope the next song in the open world is one that you like. Crossworlds has a jukebox, and you can customize if you want different songs to play during each lap. Not necessary, but now I get to listen to Sonic Frontiers boss music during my final lap. Meanwhile, in Mario Kart, I have to look up the music on YouTube and listen to it in my headphones. Just like how to track progress, I have to open a checklist on Google, or to get the actual tracks I want, I have to go on Discord. It's like I said before, I like World, but the more I played it, the more frustrated I got with it and its quirks. And then Donkey Kong came out, and I just put the game down, and I never came back. Crossworlds, on the other hand, the more I've played it, the more obsessive I've become over it. Now, honestly, that seems to be the heavy consensus. Mario Kart World is a lot more flawed than we would have liked, and this game is so much more focused and fun that despite not entirely being better, it's a lot more fun to just hop on and play. Not just because of all that, but because it genuinely is a game that encourages you to get better and figure out your own play style. World's wall riding and grinding do inspire more skill expression, but the 20 plus racers and insane amount of item spam still make it hard to play that game as more than a party game, unless you want to get mad at randoms online. But here, maybe because despite how powerful the items are, they never feel like the end-all be-all, this game really makes me want to get better. Every time I do poorly in a race, I don't just shrug my shoulders and go, bad luck. I think of where I made mistakes and where to improve next time. Yeah, this game is just racing, but it doesn't really need to be anything else. It doesn't need the amazing racing and then something else that might hamper it. Now, despite that, do I think it'll outlive Mario Kart World? Honestly, no. I hate saying that, but listen, Mario Kart just has insane staying power. Even if World doesn't improve, I don't think Crossworlds will be around as long. I say this because this has happened many times before. For the most recent example, Crash Team Racing Nitro Fuel was an amazing kart racer, one that in terms of quality competed with Mario Kart. But 2 years later, you could still very easily find Mario Kart 8 Deluxe online matches, but Crash was empty as hell besides the private lobbies. Hell, even now you can find Mario Kart 8 lobbies totally full. Now, Crash also had really irritating microtransactions and no crossplay, and I feel like this game has a high chance of lasting longer than that game did, but I don't see it lasting the upwards of 10 years Mario Kart tends to. I hope I'm wrong. I'd love for this to be a constant option as a kart racer because it really is that fun. And honestly, if Mario Kart World stays the same way it is now, I would much prefer to play this than that. But we'll have to see. Please, let my negative prediction be wrong once. Please. Please, God. Please, Sonic. Please, Sonic the Hedgehog. Please, Sonic, my husband. I can't express how happy I am with this game. The price is dumb, but outside of that, I have so little to whine about. I said before, I love this new attitude Sega has been showing with Sonic. Even if I don't really care for the games, or the games are just kind of middling, like Sonic Frontiers or Superstars, it's nice to see Sega having faith and confidence in the projects. And it's that confidence that led to Shadow Generations and now this. This game really is something special. And this game really is worth the attention. This isn't just a step in the right direction. I am so sick of hearing that that when it comes to games that don't stick their landings. This game is just really, really good. No ifs, ands, or buts. At first, it was annoying hearing Sonic fans cope for it. Then it was weird seeing that it actually looked great. Then surreal seeing those review scores. Even though, of course, none of those reviewers matter normally. They just matter now because they said something I wanted to be good was good. And now, to actually have it in my hands and for it to be this good, man. Originally, I thought about this basically being a full video shitting on Mario Kart World, but that's doing this game a disservice, because it's not just a game to be compared. It is a fun, deep, insanely addicting kart racer that is one of the best I've played in years, and I hope it sticks around past when the season pass ends. Although the monthly content we're going to be getting is definitely going to be keeping the player base around for a bit. But that's enough of me talking. The more I talk, the less time I'm spending playing only Crossworlds, and that's time wasted. So don't talk to me, I'm never coming back.